Challenge Masterclass is back in session. Plus, Amber finally has a friend in the challenge house. Shane and Davon finally get some screen time. Sam and Frank sort of continue the win streak. Steve and Adam do not have to do an elimination for once. And OG schemers Veronica and Katie have the house in complete panic mode, doing exactly what they want. It's the Challenge All Stars Rivals Episode 6 recap coming up right now. What up, my fellow challenge lovers? Welcome to The Challenge Historian, where we go deep on all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future if it's happening in the Challenge universe. We are here to document it. I am your host and dedicated challenge historian, Jacob Hollaball. Thank you so very much for being here with me a little bit later than usual. Apologies. Some things got in the way from watching the episode on time last night, Wednesday night. And so I did end up watching the episode very late last night, but then saved the recording for here today. And for those watching on YouTube, yes, I am a sweaty mess that just came back from the gym, but you know, all of these folks are on our screens sweating every single week, doing crazy daily challenges. I can do one podcast episode where I too am a sweaty mess, but just in case that is the explanation for that. Programming reminders before we dive into what was an amazing episode 6. And shout out to Mark Long and everyone else that has been promoting the hell out of this season. But Mark has really been, putting in the work to promote this thing. And sometimes when you are heavily promoting something you believe in, the promotion can fall a little flat if you kind of are promising or setting certain expectations. This one has not. He and others, but especially Mark, has been very honest each week with be ready for this, or, this week he was very much like, if you like Veronica, if you like OG scheming, you're going to love this. And he was right. So it's been a great season. Loving everything. Lots to get to with this episode. Before we do, though, only program reminder is a bigger one than regular. Next week, we will have All-Stars recap on Wednesday night. We'll be back to Wednesday night. I don't foresee anything stopping us next week the way it did this week from doing that on time. But along with Wednesday night, you will get 2 other podcasts next week. One on Monday, one on Friday. Not telling you what they are for the time being, but do know that you will be getting 3 episodes next week. Whether you listen, whether you watch podcast, YouTube, both will get the same thing on them. So Monday, check it out. There will be something. Wednesday night, we'll be back with All-Stars. Friday, there will be something as well. So a bunch more than just All-Stars coverage coming in the very, very near future here for you. But for today, of course, it is our typical recap, walk through the episode, a bunch of fun things to talk to about, and then awards and power rankings and predictions as always to close it out. So episode 6, Challenge All-Stars Rivals. Here we go. The opening segment of the show was quite short, which makes sense because they really wanted to give us as much as they could of the scheming and the hustle and bustle of the house post-daily challenge. So I appreciate it. But while it was a short section, it featured something that I have been dying to see happen in a challenge house. And I am so thrilled that it finally happened in a challenge house. While the purpose of the segment was to show us, to have Dario talking about Dario and Ashley, and they need to have a conversation, and the focus was on Dario and Ashley. It was Ashley having the moms having fun, I think as Corey or someone says in the background, and it was Ashley and Amber and Mel, twirling around and throwing each other in the pool and having a good old time. And during that, my only thought, I didn't care at the moment about any of the Dario Ashley stuff. I only cared that Amber had a friend, that Amber has friends in a challenge house, okay? This is one of the great mysteries of the challenge, is that every time Amber has been on a season, the 3 seasons, 4 seasons, whatever it is that she's done, she, with no reasoning given, is just perceived as this kind of shady outsider that no one wants to work with and no one really wants to be friends with and no one wants to tell the truth to. And they say, she can't be trusted. She can't be trusted. But we never have ever gotten any evidence. Every season that it's happened, it just goes by. And us, the viewer, and me, I have been shouting at it about it at times of like, she seems wonderful. She seems really nice. She seems really friendly. It's one thing to like not be in an alliance, but why? I need some evidence for season after season why everyone is just like, oh, we just kind of stay away from her. She's a little shady or whatever. Why that kept happening. It's a mystery. No one has ever given good reason for it. And if I had to guess, I really do think it ultimately just went down to her first season. She is from Big Brother, and she came in. There had been a couple Big Brother players, obviously, like Paulie and Natalie and Devon had, in that Final Reckoning or the Dirty 30 trilogy into the War of the Worlds that had been around, but it did feel like they weren't, because there was only a couple of them and it was like the slow drip in, they weren't like branded as Big Brother players, and it was Josh and Fessy and Casey who kind of came in. Josh came in a season before the others, but like were there essentially together. That came in were labeled like that's the Big Brother trio, and they play the game a certain way, and we don't play with them, we don't mess with them, and they're a super tight trio. And when Amber came in, and that trio was like, we got 3, that's good enough, we don't need to expand our numbers, you're not going to really be a part of this. And the rest of the house was like, she's Big Brother, she's got to be with the Big Brother folks, because now the Big Brother folks was this branded trio. It just became this thing of the whole house was like, she's with them, and they were like, she's not with us necessarily, and therefore no friends. And both sides saying, just don't trust that person or whatever for no reason. And suddenly that turns into seasons long, everyone saying that for no reason when she's wonderful and amazing. So I was thrilled that Amber has a friend. Amber having friends and feeling good and having a good time and fun time in a challenge house will come up later, because it does bite her in the butt a little bit later in the episode. But just got to say, love that Amber has a friend. Amazing. Also love that we do get Shane and Devon. We've basically had no Shane and Devon the whole season. We came into the season being like, that team is gold right there. That's gold cast members, okay? That's going to be a mess. It's going to be fun. It's going to be loud. It's going to be hilarious. They're going to say great things. They're going to talk some shit. They might be pretty good at the games. They might suck, but one way or the other, they will be heard from. They will be seen. And it has been a big, big surprise this season, as good as this season has been, that they haven't really been on screen. They haven't been a part of any of the plots or the storylines or really anything going on. So we see them and they're chatting, and they are firmly in the middle, which we'd kind of sorted that out or figured that out, but it was nice to have them fully lay out like these kind of are the teams we've kind of known over the last couple episodes. We've seen the rise of, it's not a full cohesive alliance, but they're all thinking the same thing of this, we suck, the worst teams should look out for each other versus the star holders / quote unquote good teams. It was kind of there, but they lay out where the actual like friendship alliances are, and that they are evenly split. They've each got basically 3 teams that they would ride with because of their personal relationships, and they are firmly in the middle. And that is good to know. I think that's a good place. In most challenge houses, that would be a very good place to be. In this, where you need the star and you need to be able to get a star, and preferably like you would really like to set up your preferred elimination matchup to get one, outside of being able to get one at a daily, which now is a thing. Maybe the middle isn't as advantageous as it can be for a regular season where there is no requirement to get to the final. It's just getting to the end without being eliminated. But I'm glad we saw them. I'm glad that they helped clear up a little bit of where exact allegiances lay as far as friendship alliances go. And, they'll be, I'm guessing, the setting it up to, while it wasn't for this episode, we'll set up in the future, this is going to come into play, them wanting to go one way or the other with one friend or the other. To the daily challenge they go, and this daily is just a fantastic design, great game, love every bit of it. Shout out to the production crew to be able to, I was a little nervous during the first run of like, wait a minute, do they all have the same word? Which would be okay for one run if it's just, whoever's done first, then, it doesn't really matter the others shouting it out. But the fact that they all 3 had different words for all three. Everyone had a different word, all 9 people or whatever. That's a lot of work as far as like setting up 9 different codes and boards and the whole thing. So great job by them with that. And I just thought the design, everything about it was great. I also really was wondering by the end, and I try not to do this too often, where I'm like, I feel like they should have been better at the game. Like the cast should have been better at the thing. So maybe it was harder than I think, but it seemed like they weren't that good or efficient at being able to wipe the mud off, or maybe it just was a little bit more stuck on there than I'm thinking. But I was like, if you sit on your butt and don't put your hands like out to the side, put your hands like on your butt, just basically making your butt a few extra inches wider on each side, but like a firm from pinky on one side to pinky on the other. I got like a 1.5, 2 foot here, depending what kind of big booty you're rocking, spot that is flat and that will wipe the mud. And I will do a full streak with no, not letting up any pressure. I don't know. It seemed like they were just really, really streaky. They would go down and leave these like little lines, but then they all did a great job of being able to like, okay, we can make enough of that out. We'll be able to figure it out. Go, wipe a different place off. Performance wise, obviously Sam and Frank, they don't win, but they win as far as the non-star holders. And I don't love this. I don't love I kind of liked it better, I think, that the star could be handed out. I think I said that last week as much. Like I wanted Adam and Steve to be able to hand it out. I think that's a little bit more interesting in gameplay, and gives the extra effort of like maybe someone would be, you could convince a friend to go into an elimination to get you a star if you don't want to go into it, or something of that along those lines, or you just really want a specific person in the final with you. Well, you could go win a second star. So I don't love that there's no way to like get the second star to be able to give out to the person that you want. I kind of liked that better, and better than, the top non-star holding team gets a star here for this, but it is what it is. It's a slight wrinkle that I don't think, hurts a ton, but we'll see how I feel by the end if this happens a time or two, but I think I like the All-Stars 4 version better. But Sam and Frank do extremely well and do earn the star as the top non-star holder team. And I do think they were second overall, period, behind Steve and Adam. And they proved something that, we'll talk power rankings at the end, but they're going to move up a little bit because I'm starting to see the vision of if a final could be more things like this, where it's like there's a big physical element, but one of you can do most of the physical element and the other can be working on the mental element on the side, or come back and forth. If you need a little break, you can go over here and still do something productive while taking a break. And so this kind of gave, like, they're working together better, they're communicating better, and they're finding a good, awareness and rhythm of immediately being like, all right, Sam, do 1 or 2. And then like you go over there and start working on that. And I got the endurance. I'll just climb this thing over and over and do this over and over. And so I like what I'm seeing from Sam and Frank. My opinion of their chances of being able to win different finals or do well in different circumstances that a final could provide is growing a little bit. Other performance to point out that it was just an immediate note. Devon, I didn't remember this, if we've learned this in the past. I don't know if they ever did any swimming on the season she was on before, but can't swim. And from that short swim and the little glimpse of we got, maybe we just got like the worst glimpse ever, but it didn't look good. And so it was just a note down that if they were in a final and there was swimming, they're going to be very slow at that portion of it. I forget if what level of swimmer Shane is. Maybe he's a great swimmer and could, if they had to do it together, could do some pushing and pulling along and helpful. But that was a note just to take down that we see not able to swim there for Devon. And then of course Steve and Adam, they're just solidifying their top contender spot at this point. Yes, it would have been fun to see them go into another elimination. It would have been incredible to be like, they went 8 for 8. There was 8 eliminations this season, and Steve and Adam were in every one, and they won every single one of them 8-0 or something crazy. Okay, I am hopeful that they get to it. I like them, and so I'm not rooting. I wouldn't normally root for them to go into an elimination, but I would like to see them match the 5-0 and just tie the record out there, that not have to beat it, but tie it would be fun. And so, there was a part of me that was like, oh, dang, they won. Like, I almost, at this point, we've already seen it 4 times. We might as well see the 5th one and see, that happen. But good for them. And they're very much solidifying their spot as the team to beat, the overall number 1 team to beat. And once back at the house, chaos in the name of Veronica and Katie broke loose. Well, they didn't start it, but they picked up on the wins very quickly, realized what was going on, and decided we've got to get in there and completely change this, redirect this, and go to work. And they did, because to their credit, Fessy and Nany have the right idea immediately. The first thing we see right after the daily challenge is Fessy and Nany being like, okay, Steve and Adam are off the table. That has been the whole house. We finally have to do something different. And Steve and Adam like Veronica and Katie, and it was the right idea for both of them, thinking they're going to want to target us. They're going to probably want to put literally our 2 teams versus each other as who they might think are the 2 biggest threats. And, we've heard and gotten word that a lot of the teams are doing this whole, whoever's the best, we got to get out so that we have a shot, which again, finally is like smart gameplay of a whole house just being like, what if we collectively were like, whoever's the best, get them out every day. That is just the goal. Whoever is currently the best is the person we get out, so that those of us that aren't quite as good have a shot in a final. What a strategy that almost never actually gets done in a challenge house. And is at least being attempted here to some degree, but is, being thwarted when other smarter plans come about. But Fessy and Nany, they do have the right idea of like, if they're going to target us, then we need to vote Katie and Veronica, because that is Steve and Adam's number 1. And if we can get the house to vote them in, there's a good shot that Steve and Adam don't want to put one of us versus them, because their friends would be like, oh, we don't want to go home. Maybe give us someone that we think we have a better shot against in more eliminations than not. And so that is the right idea. And they just, they start spreading that word. And eventually that word gets back to Veronica. And then Veronica and Katie go to work. Now, I need to start all of this because I'm going to say a few things that's going to make it sound like I'm in some way discrediting how masterful everything Veronica and Katie do here is. I am not at all. 100%. The masterclass was very deserved here. It was a fun gimmick editing thing they could do when she was trying to teach Adam to be mean. Just a fun, good time. This time it was like a very deserved, like, no, everyone pay attention. This is how you get shit done socially, politically in this house. Watch what Veronica and I are capable of. 100% masterful from Veronica, from Katie. On Veronica's part, I mean, for both of them, it's why they're both legendary in this game, that they are capable of this side of things, but especially on Veronica's front, it's one of the many reasons, there was many of them, but one of them was this, that she was the star, the original face of the franchise in the first 10 seasons, on 8 of the first 10, 7 of the first 10, and those early team seasons, she knew how to make the right friendships, have the right conversations, push things in this way or that way. I mean, Katie was on the receiving end of a lot of it, which is why they became rivals in the first place. She is a master at this, and she proves that she still is very capable of learning everyone's personalities, learning everyone's allegiances in the house, and deciding, I am being targeted. What's the best path to get out of this? And here's how I can play people and emotions against each other. All amazing. Now, with that, there also was some unexpected help that I found fascinating. And I think this first one, I'm taking Frank at his word from the confessional portion of it, but I don't know if everyone watching maybe picked up on this as much. Frank is the one who tips Veronica and Katie off, or at least we see. And while we see him doing it, we get the confessional with Frank where he says, I'm making this up. Or to him, he's like, I think to him, some of it was like, I'm guessing this could be true. If I was them, I would probably, do this or whatever. But like he says in that confessional, he doesn't know that this is true. He just tells them some people are targeting you to, kind of do some instigating of his own in a way. And the fact that he's the one that tips them off and he's correct in his tip, but he isn't aware that he's correct. He's making it up, not knowing that I'm actually saying something true. And so I thought that was fascinating and really a little fun extra subplot of like, that's how this kind of got kicked off, is like the first word we see, at least that they're getting, is from Frank, who doesn't actually know that he is telling the truth in that moment. And then this is where we come full circle back to what I started the walk through the episode with, of Amber having friends and me being so happy that Amber has friends in the challenge house and she's having a good time and this house feels different. She can have fun and she likes Veronica and trusts her, and it just makes her the perfect mark for Veronica to sow the first seeds in the first phase kind of their ultimate plan here of where things go. And I just felt it was just such a gut punch. I was so jubilant at the beginning of the episode being like, this, oh, great. Finally, Amber is like, people like her because they should, because she's super likable and fun and cool. And now that is getting taken advantage of, that right when she finally is feeling good in a challenge house, she's like, oh, one of the people I was like friends with, it's just completely lied to me by the end of the episode. She realizes. So that's a bummer, but she's a perfect mark. And Veronica sniffs out exactly like, this person trusts me, and this is my in to starting these dominoes and planting these seeds. And then once she has done that and started some of that doubt with different people, including Amber, Katie takes Veronica's work. The getting Amber to start saying Mel's name was the Veronica's first phase portion of this. And Katie spins the second portion of the move to just beautiful execution. Take Mel, who you've now got Amber thinking is saying Mel's saying her name, and you go get Mel paranoid and convinced that she needs to firmly be like, hey, your name's now out there too, and you need to be in this. She doesn't say the We Suck Alliance, but I'm still using that as, you know, the kind of general phrasing for this big collective here. And she convinced them, you need to firmly kind of be on this side of things, and you need to be advocating to go for star holders. It needs to be one of the 3 star holders other than Steve and Adam who are safe. That's who you need to be going for. And you need to be like pushing other people to go for. And it works exactly as Katie would want, as Veronica would want. It works perfectly that Mel goes and has conversations of, I think, you know, I know we've been hearing a little bit of maybe this idea over here. I think we need to, like, my name's coming up now. We need star holders out of here. We need the teams that can beat us out of here. And that leads to then, you know, it doesn't ever come back to Fessy or Nany or their teams, but it does go to then the, again, kind of other people still doing smart, making the smartest decisions while somewhat doing what Veronica and Katie want them to do, is that they're like, of the 3, we at least can keep our hands cleanest by going at Ashley and Dario, because there's at least this like Dario semi-betrayed, quote unquote, Leroy last week, and, you know, they're a little less tight with people, and it'll be on Steve and Adam then to put one of the other star holders in. And so we get to the actual vote, and it's chaotic. I love that TJ is interjecting, asking questions, even though no one will say anything, which is why I can't believe no one just says Veronica's name, or maybe incorrectly says Frank's name. The only thing we get is the Amber, not even instigated from TJ, just for my vote, we heard that this team was saying our name, and so we're going to say Mel and Nicole, and Mel, shout out to her, calmly responding to make sure that it's kind of known, like, I'm giving you a genuine, honest response here. We didn't do that. That's not true. Nothing about that is true. But no one else saying anything. And this is why I was so big and so excited for live votes with TJ there. The more they let TJ or tell TJ or even instruct TJ of like, ask some questions, probe. If someone won't say something, ask a follow-up, whatever. This is why the live vote with him there pays off, is for moments like these. And I would like more of them. And the 2 people, it all comes back to, we start this with Fessy and Nany thinking Veronica and Katie should be the target. And at the end of it, while they end up safe, I was a little surprised. They were the 2 I was very surprised don't speak up and call out Veronica and Katie. I feel like there was, when that first vote happens And I guess it wouldn't have worked because, it was Fessy and Amber that ruining my entire argument that I wanted to have here. But it was Fessy and Amber that say Mel and Nicole, and that kicks off then them saying, that's not, none of this is true. So they probably wouldn't have been allowed to change their vote. So it kind of ruins this thought. But that Fessy and Nany, when some of this breaks out and everyone's like, who's they? Who's they? Who's they? Wouldn't attempt to maybe flip of like, hey, it's Veronica and Katie. Veronica and Katie. That's who we wanted. A bunch of us thought that's who we were going to vote for. Why doesn't everyone? Why don't we do that? If we're all confused and there's a bunch and no one, no one is confused by anyone by those two. Like it's got to be those two. Let's put the vote back there. I kind of thought there would be an attempt at that, but I think both because Amber and Fessy started it, so that vote was gone. Once it was like, okay, they got us to all change our mind, but we all changed it to Dario and Ashley. Our teams are safe, so like let's just skate by and do damage control later. I think that's what they ended up with. But Dario and Ashley, who again, Dario we talked about last week. Did he do something wrong? A little bit, yes. He could have been cleaner. He wasn't a full-blown betrayal of his best buddy or anything, but they end up being on the receiving end of this masterclass from Veronica and Katie. Then at the jungle, we get the second team in, and it is the second surprise of the episode. By the actual vote, Dario and Ashley were not surprising because we'd got all the work to tell us that was going to happen. But it was a surprise if you start going into that whole segment. It would have been a surprise that Dario and Ashley would end up where it ends up. This one was just straight up surprise because I did not think Adam and Steve were going to say Corey and Big T. And we see the reason why. They make deals in advance. They get the flashback. Hey, before Jungle, we went and made a deal with Fessel and Amber. We went and made a deal with Nany and Turbo. They will not be saying our name. They will not be voting for us. They will keep us out of elimination to whatever extent they are able to do so. And on one hand, I like it. Adam and Steve have a star. They want to align with the best teams who will win dailies and maybe always be able to protect each other. They want just, if the best teams turn into all the star holders become the best teams and we can just win all the dailies, we can always kind of protect each other. We can, have the majority here eventually, the whole thing. So on one hand, I like it. They are confident we can beat these teams and we have our star and we just want to be protected. And so the other teams that are winning dailies is a good way to protect us if we could finally convince some people not to vote for us. And we have gotten rid of some of the people that have been voting for us. On the other hand, I don't like it though, because the voting did just shift. The voting, I know it was because they were safe, but it was also because of where the allegiances has gone. And the voting had shifted enough where of the 4 quote unquote good teams or of the 4 star holders, everyone else, like you were the last of the good teams or the star holders that were going, you were the safest of those 4 teams at the top because your allies were the ones at the bottom kind of leading the, like, we need to get all the good teams out. And so, I think the way the votes had shifted, they could be safe here for at least a round or two, even as a good team, a threat with a star, that the other threat or star holders or both would be the ones this new big voting block would be wanting to throw in. And so with that shifted and them being the safest of those teams, those allies want a star up for grabs at the next daily. Veronica and Katie want a star up for grabs at the next daily. Mel and Nicole want a star up for grabs at the next daily. Frank and Sam would probably be fine with a star up for grabs at the next daily if it meant either, Nany, Turbo, Fessy, Amber, or Ashley, Dario, one of the 3 went home. They would all be good with it. And Big T and Corey are against you. And you do, I know they end up losing, but you do put them in a position to have a star and get a little power back in this game. And so I know Corey and Adam had their back and forth. We only saw a little of it on screen. They really went at each other on sharing DMs and group chats and all kinds of things the day or two after last week's episode. I encourage you go on X and check out the back and forth between them, or I'm sure some of the different Challenge T accounts on Instagram or some of the other social sites, put together a nice little group of all of it. But those two don't like each other. Those two were not getting along in the house. And so I think that had as much to do with it as anything. The game they end up playing then, it's a great game. It's a great design, but it is the worst case scenario for Corey and Big T. Corey just can't catch a break with anything balance related in this, in the challenge. Balance beams in the past, now this balance dreidel-esque, top-esque, whatever that TJ called it here. The biggest weight discrepancy plays a big disadvantage in this game, okay? And these two, Corey and Big T, have the biggest weight discrepancy in the house by a mile. She is a tiny woman. He is a giant of a man. And they together we're going to have an incredible difficulty balancing this thing. And even more so, to balance it, they couldn't both stand up as well. And Corey really had to be a lot flatter to the ground. And then we see at the end, like, Big T isn't tall enough to reach the top one on. And she's like, Corey, you got to do it. And that shift caused the last moment where they, topple when they had a shot to win. And so this, is a major disadvantage for them here. But as always, there's just a lot of luck in a challenge season. The games would be boring. The eliminations and daily challenge would be boring if they always, were very down the middle. Kind of reruns of the same thing. We figured out a handful of things we can do where we feel like it's really even across the board. There isn't anything that advantages someone who's tall or someone who's small or someone who weighs more, someone who weighs less, or teammates that have this in common or this not in common or whatever it is. There's all these, I'm sure Corey and Big T didn't think this would be the why they would go into an elimination with a disadvantage. Would be, yes, we're a different size, but that should be advantageous more often than it's not, because sometimes it's good to be tall or big on some dailies or eliminations, and sometimes it's good to be short or small. And we have one of both, and so we can always take advantage of whichever one is necessary. And in this instance, it wasn't. So this game is, it's why you avoid eliminations at all costs. You don't know what it's going to be. You don't know what is going to be good or bad skill sets or body types or anything to have in them. And this one, they performed valiantly. They did really well considering how hard it was. And I'm not saying this was easy for Ashley and Dario. Perform incredibly well as well. I thought both of them, this went a lot faster. Maybe we just didn't see a lot of it, but it went a lot faster. And I thought that this was going to take forever. And this was going to be, there was a part of me that was like, is this going to be one of those things where they, after an hour, if they're like, okay, neither of you can do this, and so we got to change a rule slightly, because it seemed like it was going to be really difficult in any way to balance that thing with a stack built in the middle. So Ashley and Dario crush it. I do think Corey and Big T did really well, especially considering what they were up against. And I'm sad to see them go. I think they were good on Corey was really good on this season. And was, stirring it up. And again, we weren't even seeing a lot of the stirring up that he was doing. And there's a part of me that was like, we got everything we could have asked for out of Dario kind of last week. And we haven't been getting a ton out of Ashley here. And I kind of would have been maybe okay with them going. But he has been really good. The convo they have afterwards is good TV. We only get to see a little bit of it and kind of the surface level parts of it. Maybe that's all it was. Who knows? But I'm glad we got to see a little bit of it. We see Dario taking responsibility. It's a nice moment. It's a nice conversation. Hopefully we'll get plenty from them the rest of the season. But I was definitely bummed to see Corey and Big T go. Awards now. I might need to retire best quote and have it be something that you all submit every week. Like, these were the best quotes, and I'd take all of those down for a best quote at the end of the season, because I'm just not doing a good job on taking good studious notes every episode, but I'm just not doing a good job with the quotes. The ones I wrote down for this week: Frank quote, "Have you ever seen me do anything ugly? I look beautiful hitting the water. I'm basically Tom Daly up there." End quote. And then at the end, Dario quote, "We're both single. However, right now I'm married to the money." End quote. And that one, I definitely thought that was, we're both single. So maybe we won't be just for the time in the challenge house now that things are nice. I didn't expect that to go to I'm married to the money. So that was good. I'm sure there were things Katie, Veronica, and Devon said in their confessionals, probably that I should have written down or something, but I'll give the quote of the week to Frank. The moment of the week, Amber having a friend. Again, I didn't care about the Dario Ashley part of the opening montage. I just cared that Amber had a friend, and it was fun watching all the moms, have a good time, or some of the moms. I think there was moms not involved in that potentially, but some of the moms having a good time. Veronica, we'll split it up. Veronica and Katie both getting a nomination for that, the entire them scheming segment, but Veronica up early and out in action and, bopping around, having the conversations. Fantastic. And Katie's masterclass, we'll give the actual award to that specific portion of this overall grand scheming plan. Thought it was great. I would sign up for any amount of money that I had to my name for Katie's masterclass. Love Katie to death, and she has just been wonderful on this season. MVP then should be no surprise. Corey gets some votes. Amber gets some votes. Dario and Ashley get some votes. Frank gets some votes. But Katie and Veronica are joint MVPs of the episode, without a doubt. As for the power rankings and predictions, power rankings, couple small updates. First off, Corey and Big T are gone. Had them at 5th. They dropped down. So in first place, we're keeping the same. Adam and Steve got to be first, okay? They've won something every episode. They've won 4 eliminations and now a daily challenge. They were in 2nd or 3rd at worst on basically every daily before this. They're absolutely crushing it. They should be the favorites right now, and they have a star and they have a good alliance and everything else. Everything is going good for them, even if it means they have to keep winning eliminations. I think they can and will. Nani and Turbo bump up to 2nd. Amber and Fessy bump down to 3rd, just because at some point the house kind of views those teams similar. I like Amber and Fessy if they were running the final a little bit more, just because of the communication. I think they've gotten to a good place and seem to be actually friendly and trusting, where Nani and Turbo even performing well. We see this episode, don't. But at some point, Nani and Turbo have a star and Amber and Fessy don't. And I can't just keep having them at 1st or 2nd on this list if they literally are not allowed to run the final, that I think they would win if they could be allowed, but they're not allowed currently. So they're in 3rd. Frank and Sam move up from 6 to 4. Okay. So they're in 4th. They have a star now. And what I said earlier, I'm starting to see the vision of, we know All Stars finals. We know, All Stars 4 was a bunch of carnival games with a little running at the end. And so anyone could really win that, no matter the athletic abilities be damned, the endurance be damned, that we think of with a challenge final. And All Stars 2 was, a final where there was a complete reset at the very, very end. And it was just, if you've made it to the final checkpoint, we all start from scratch. It's one checkpoint. And yes, there was a long run down the airstrip at the end of it, but it was like you eat something, you do a puzzle, and then you run down the airstrip. And so, like, in that scenario where there's a reset, anyone can win. And if there are, some of the more physically taxing, the endurance related, if there are portions of that in the final, if they are a little more like this daily challenge where, I just start to see that vision of like, okay, like Frank will do a lot of it. And Sam, if you need to rest, if it's set up where like your rest can come while still being valuable to the mission at hand, and by doing something mental or just being an organizer or something, I'm starting to see the vision that I didn't think was there before, and they're a star holder now. So they're in 4th. Ashley and Dario fall to 5th. They're only really there because they're a star holder. Honestly, it keeps them above. I don't see the threat level maybe that it seems like a little bit of the house is thinking. And then Veronica, Katie 6th, Devon and Shane 7, Melissa, Nicole 8th. They're all bumped up 1 because Corey and Big T went home, but essentially I still kind of have them at the bottom, with Melissa and Nicole still being the only team that I sorry, still haven't done anything to prove to me that there's a better than 0% chance they win this. I think Devon and Shane, Veronica and Katie do need to get the right set of teams to the final, and then also need to have one of an All-Stars 2 or 4 scenario of, let's make this a bunch of games, a bunch of puzzles, or a reset, and we can win this. We can win a checkpoint. But if this is a pure All-Stars 3 style, just pure time-based, there's a bunch of endurance, there's a bunch of carrying shit, then those teams are going to struggle. So that has them at the bottom. But I think the final will lean more towards All-Stars 4 than anything else. And so it's mostly still kind of anyone's game, but I think Steve and Adam deserve to be the, growing heavier favorite by the week. Nani, Turbo, Amber, Fessy, to me, still, if they get there, deserve to be considered at a different threat level than everyone else. But it's an open game, and I'm very excited to see where it could go. Prediction wise, 1.5 out of 3 last week. And so we're 8.5 out of 15 on the season. This week, top of the dome. I did not write these down. I did not prepare my predictions like I'm supposed to. So looking at next week, what was on the next week on? Let's try to cheat briefly here. We'll allow that to do. We know that Frank's going to get loud. We know that Veronica is kind of strong arming some people. And there was a third thing I think we were shown in the next week on that I didn't write down. But, I'm thinking next week is the Nani Turbo moment from we see in the trailer. One of the big moments of the trailer is Nani standing up and going across the room telling Turbo it's not time for this right now. So I think that's going down. I think Steve and Adam win again. I think they win another daily, and they yet again have another win every episode. I think Steve and Adam are going to win something every episode this season, which would be its own kind of incredible thing. So Steve and Adam win the daily. I think Nani and Turbo are targeted one way or the other. I think they maybe avoid the house. I think we're going to next week get the thing they were worried about this week. I think next week it's Fessel, Amber versus Nani, Turbo in the elimination. Steve and Adam winning the daily, and Veronica and Frank pulling the strings to get with Steve and Adam to figure out exactly how to make that elimination happen. So that's predictions. I hope not. I'm still rooting for Fessy and Amber. But they got to get them a star here. They got to get them a star. They might need to be okay with going into elimination regardless of who it's versus. But that is your predictions. That is your All-Stars 6. Again, reminder, next week, there will be an episode Monday. There will be an episode Friday. There will be one Wednesday night for All-Stars. Monday and Friday will be more surprise general topics. Make sure you're subscribed or following or whatever you got to do on whichever platform you watch or listen on to make sure that you are getting those when they pop up. I don't know if it'll be Monday morning and Friday morning or sometime throughout those days, but it will be sometime in the 24 hours that is Monday and Friday. Those extra episodes will be coming out. So thank you for being here. Love every one of you. Appreciate every one of you for being here. I do not take it for granted that anyone listens to this. We're almost at we're coming up on the 4-year mark of this show, which is absolutely wild, and the 300 episode mark, which is absolutely wild. So thank you as always for being here. DMs are open at Challenge Historian. YouTube comments are open, of course. And I will talk to you next week. Peace.